Does that look right?
Yep.
All right. Well, I want to welcome everybody to this presentation of the Daniel Meyer Pool draft design report. My name is Michael Black, and I'm the Director of Ashland Parks and Recreation. And I'm joined here today with our consultants who worked on this plan, some staff members, and then we do have our commissioners here. You're not going to see them popped up on the screen here, but I do want to acknowledge them. The commission right now is made up of 5 elected members. You as the citizens of Ashland elect those members. Mike Gardner is the chair, Rick Lant is the vice chair, and then we have Julian Bell, Jim Lewis, and Joel Heller. Joel Heller is finishing up his term at the end of this year, and Leslie Eldridge was elected to fill that position, and she'll take over at the beginning of 2021. If our commissioners are here, I just want to say welcome and thank you for all the work you do. They are volunteer and elected officials for the citizens of Ashland. The consultants we have here tonight who worked on the plan are Carl Sherwood, who you can see here, Scott Stolarczyk, and Justin Karen. And you'll be hearing from at least Carl and maybe all of them tonight. The staff we have here tonight to help with questions, if we need them, are Rachel Dials, our recreation superintendent, Lonnie Flora, who's our recreation manager, Tara Keywell, who's our administrative analyst who oversaw this contract and is managing the Zoom meeting tonight for us. So why don't we go ahead and go into the presentation so I can give the background really quick, and then I'll turn it over to you, Carl. While we're doing that, I want to let everybody know that we will have an opportunity for questions and answers during this, at the end of this presentation. You will be able to put your questions in at the bottom of your screen. If you hover over the Zoom feature at the bottom of your screen, there should be an icon with 2 bubbles, 2 word bubbles that says Q&A. If you click on that, you can enter into some into the questions. Now, Tara, how do they do that? Because I'm clicking on it right now and I'm not seeing how I can actually enter a question.
You should be able to type a question right in there. I'm not sure that.
Okay, we'll work on that. Oh, we do have a question that just came up. Sample question from Leslie. Thank you very much. It is working.
Okay.
It probably wasn't working for me because I'm a panelist. And Rebecca, thank you. We got both of those. So it is working. So as we're going along, feel free to put in the questions. Tara will, at the end, read those questions and we will try to answer those. Now, I want to recognize that the details of what we're going to present tonight are going to be hard for you to formulate questions maybe about tonight. We are getting the report tonight, and after tonight we will have it available on our website for people to download or to look at while you're online. Now, as you look at it, obviously you will formulate more questions, and as we go forward, I want you to know that this meeting tonight is only the beginning of this phase of the project. And the project is eventually, hopefully, building a new pool for the citizens of Ashland. But we're in the planning process right now. And as we're planning, this is one of the things that we need to do is create a plan, get it out in front of the public so the public has an opportunity to comment on it, and that we have an opportunity to revise as necessary and revise our recommendations, revise however we need to, and also to talk to people and make them aware of some of all of the recommendations and why we would recommend the way that we are going to hear tonight. So we'll go through all of that tonight. I want to assure you that because this is just the starting of the new this phase of the process, there will be more opportunities for you as citizens to make comments and to ask questions. We intend to present this report again at the Parks Commission meeting coming up in the near future. We plan to present it to the Climate Policy Commission, and we plan to do other open houses so that the public can have an opportunity to comment when they have more information and are able to formulate more comments. So again, this is the beginning of this phase of the process, and we look forward to moving forward and hearing what you have to say about this after we present this to you tonight. So I'm going to just give a quick background here really quick, just at the beginning here. This is the existing Daniel Meyer pool. You can see there the existing bathhouse to the right, and the senior center is down, which is actually to the south or to the bottom of the screen. To the west or to the left on the screen, you can see the elementary school there. Daniel Meyer Pool was made possible by a donation from the Meyer family and opened in 1986 and was intended to always be a seasonal pool, which was, as you can see, operated outside and never had a cover over it. The bathhouse obviously was enclosed, but it wasn't until just recently, over the last 5 years, that we actually made it so that it was winterized so it could actually be used during the winter. It was always a summer building. And with the extended use of the pool over the last few years as a result of other pools closing, we actually did try to at least make things a little more comfortable for the groups that are using the pool during the winter. So over the years, 34, 35 years, the pool has provided a valuable seasonal opportunity for our citizens in Ashland. Many, many people learned to swim there. A lot of people used it for fitness, and many more people used it as recreation. And I think a lot of people remember it very fondly, but it is aging. The current use is year-round. It's no longer a seasonal pool. This pool was never intended to have the amount of use that it currently has. And the reason why it has so much use is because there is a limited amount of available pools within our community, within our specific community of Ashland, but also with the entire Southern Oregon region. There really aren't enough pools for the people who use them. The people who use them are high school teams, the master swimmers, our recreation folks, people learning how to swim, the senior center. A lot of different people use this in a lot of different groups. And we're hoping that by keeping a pool within our community that is functioning, we will be able to continue to maintain that quality of life amenity that Ashland has had since 1986. And hopefully grow on that amenity as well and make it a little bit better than what we've had since 1986. The demand is growing. Even with all of the use that we have had recently, demand is still growing. And again, it's indicative of the lack of access to swimming pools within our communities. So the other issue with the pool and why we would be looking at this right now, in addition to the way that it's being used and how much it's being used, is that it's getting older and it's getting towards the end of its life. And the fact is that the systems that operate the pool are outdated and difficult to maintain. And we have spent many dollars over the previous few years trying little fixes here and there when a pump goes out or when we have to repair the bottom of the pool because the liner is breaking and bubbling and creating sharp edges in the pool. We end up spending a lot of money trying to keep this pool running. A lot of capital funds going towards keeping the pool running, not just the everyday, day-to-day operating costs. And that's a result of the age of the pool. Now, the Pool Ad Hoc Committee was formed to take a look at this swimming pool and to answer 3 questions. They actually were created, the Ad Hoc Committee was created by the Parks Commission, and they were asked to focus on 3 areas and to answer generally 3 questions. What are the aquatic needs for the community of Ashland? And hopefully perform a needs analysis or a feasibility study to find that out. And what is the best location for a new pool? Let's not call it the Daniel Meyer pool, but let's talk about just openly, where could a new pool go within our community? Where would be the best place? The third thing they were asked to do was to research funding options. And of course, the funding options have changed over time. And we are not at the point right now where we are actually proposing a funding option. This design and the site planning for this pool actually started before COVID, and due to COVID, some things have changed. What hasn't changed is the need for a new pool. So we have chosen, because we did have the funding for the design portion of this project, we chose to continue to move forward because the fact is that the pool isn't getting any better by itself. Eventually, the pool will have to be replaced. By having a plan like this, even though the funding is something that we still need to work on, and there's still some avenues that we want to explore, having a plan opens up more avenues for us, like grants and shovel-ready grant projects and things like that, if there is an economic stimulus package that comes forward, or just through the community grant program through the state of Oregon. So having a plan it puts us in a better position to find funding going forward. So I'm gonna go really quick here to make sure Carl has enough time. But basically, the pool ad hoc committee met for quite a while. They had several meetings. In fact, they did do a survey. We sent out 2,500 surveys to community members in Ashland. We received a significant amount of those surveys back, and what we found out, based on the surveys and through the listening sessions that were held in February and March of 2019, was that people are looking for a larger pool within the community. They're looking for something along the lines of a 25-meter by 25-yard pool with depths that are able to accommodate more uses like diving starts for swimming, water polo, and just general recreation, and large enough to accommodate multiple uses at the same time, multi-generational and multi-purpose programming, so that we could have different things going on at the same time with groups that necessarily don't generally mix together, where the pool now is so small that we don't generally have many different things going on at the same time. A larger pool would allow different groups and a multi-generational group to use the pool at the same time in different areas. And the pool ad hoc committee did also get from the community that the community was worried about funding, and they did want the funding to have a minimal impact on the taxpayers. Now, if you recall, previously we did recommend that we pay for this pool project through food and beverage, which is a tax that comes to us through people eating out within the city of Ashland. And the way that we were looking at funding it before actually did not have an increased impact on the taxpayers of Ashland. Another thing I wanted to mention was that from the survey, some observations were gained. And some of those observations I just want to mention to you were that 60% of the community members use aquatic facilities in the area. Our community members generally have a desire for multiple use options, like I talked about just a few minutes ago. And there is a desire generally among the citizens of Ashland for an improved selection of aquatic options. And there were a lot of people who voted, how do I put this? A majority of the people surveyed did say that they thought that a pool was a logical and a quality of life amenity that they would look favorably at funding through a bond or other measure. Of course, again, we're not talking about the funding tonight, but I just wanted to get that out there, that those were some of the things that came out of the survey that was performed in 2019. So with that, I just wanted to finish up by stating that we are moving forward with the recommendations of the pool ad hoc committee, which came from those meetings and the survey that was done. And it did include a 25-yard by 25-meter pool with a therapy pool attached to it, a deeper pool that could accommodate multiple users and different types of users, a pool that would support the aquatic needs of the Ashland community. And that is what we're going to talk about tonight, actually. So I am going to, just the last thing I'll say is that the parks commissioners, who do have control and management of the Daniel Meyer Pool and Hunter Park and all of the funds that come into Ashland from the various, to Ashland Parks and Recreation from the various ways that we get them, including food and beverage and general fund dollars that come in for our operations. They did review this recommendation from the pool ad hoc committee and did approve it in September of 2019. A lot of things have changed since September of 2019, but one thing that hasn't is the fact that the pool is aging and it will need to be replaced at some point. And that is why we're here tonight to talk to Carl Sherwood about the analysis that he did and his team of consultants and the recommendations that they have for us and our community pool in Ashland. So I'll turn it over to you, Carl.
Okay, thank you, Michael. Well, good evening, everyone. I hope you're all safely tucked away at home or office and enjoying the presentation so far. I'm going to take you through the design concept at this point and walk you through some of the key features that came out of the recommendations and were the basis of the study that we've conducted. The replacement pool is basically a 25 yard by 25 meter pool. That's the goal. The depths that we're looking at to accommodate range from 3'6" to about 8 feet deep. The recreation therapy alcove that Michael mentioned would be about 2 feet to 3'6" in depth. A 25 yard by 25 meter pool should yield about 10 lanes wide at 25 yards in length. And going in the other direction, 7 lanes at 25 meter. Of course, you can't swim both directions at the same time. The pool should also yield a water polo course with a uniform depth at around 7 feet throughout the course, which would make it a small but compliant regulation water polo course. And steps and ramped entry are kind of key features of any modern pool, providing better ease of access. When we were commissioned to do this study, we were also directed to look at the Murtha pool construction, which is a proprietary pool system that's constructed of PVC coated panels, stainless steel panels that are erected on a concrete base that provide has a 25-year warranty, long-term finish that would yield good, easy maintenance over the course of time. The concrete floor of a Murtha pool is then covered with a PVC coating that is bonded to the PVC that comes attached to the stainless steel panels for a complete watertight modular system. This is a facility that is often erected for the Olympic Games and many competitive facilities, but yields itself to modification for some of the shallower depths as well. As you can see, a finished Murtha pool here has all the key features. This is a bit larger than the one we're contemplating for your community, but has all the key features of that. So that's the basis of the type of construction for the pool, but in all other characteristics, it's a swimming pool. The other project components that will comprise an updated facility, in addition to the new pool and pool systems, would be a new pool heating system, water circulation, pumps, and water filtration and sanitation all would be replaced because the larger pool and the greater volume of pool, none of the existing systems due to their size and age could really be reused. We'll need to deal with some site improvements to increase the buildable area of the property in order to fit the larger pool. This results in reconstructing the south edge of the parking that is located to the north, and we'll cover that here briefly. There also will be some requirements for improvements to the bathhouse as we increase the pool size. The number of toilets, sinks, and showers are driven by the Oregon Health Authority requirements for swimming pools, and we will need to increase the number of those in the bathhouse. And then lastly, there's a component driven by a state of Oregon mandate for using 1.5% of any public construction budget for green energy technology investment. And I'll cover what those are as we go through. The site development will require revising the parking lot to the north. The area in yellow, that yellow rectangular box around the parking lot, is the size of the existing parking lot. It's a bit oversized, and so we can steal some of the space, about 14 or 15 feet along the south edge, and move the south row of parking north a little bit, and still have a completely legal regulation parking lot and not lose any spaces, but gain quite a bit of space to enable expansion to the north for the pool. The other yellow rectangle is the existing 6-lane 25-yard pool. And so you can see we're talking about a much larger pool that would expand significantly to the north of the existing pool and to the south of the existing pool. In order to create that new site area, the north edge, as it meets the parking lot, and the western edge would be comprised of retaining walls, much as there are some there today, in order to expand the site area out to the north and west to create more deck space and room for the larger pool. In addition, we would expand to the south towards the senior center, creating a new fence line and leveling the area between the two facilities in order to create more outdoor seating, lawn space, more recreational leisure space around the southern edge of the pool, where the shallow water area would result. And then the existing bathhouse, of course, we mentioned will require some improvements. A little closer look at the pool itself. The space at the north of the pool would still accommodate some bleachers along the northern edge, and the 25-yard swimming, would be in the east-west direction as it is today, same configuration. And as you can see, we can get up to 10 lanes wide, some of which start to get shallower towards the southern end of the pool, but at least 6 to 8 lanes of water that can be have a dive start either from the west edge in the 25-yard configuration, or from the north edge in the 25-meter configuration. We would have adequate space on the west of the pool to relocate the existing shade shelters, provided we could create that retaining wall that was mentioned earlier. And then the shallow water pool would be an extension of the shallow end of the 25-yard by 25-meter pool, being about 3.5 feet deep at the point where the two pools meet, and then getting shallower towards the steps and ramp in that area. And we'll get a closer look at that in a little bit. Within the bathhouse, the requirement will result in more toilets, the need to reorganize the showers to get private ADA accessible stalls, some private shower stalls in both men's and women's, added toilets, and more sinks. But all of that appears can be done without encroaching significantly on the changing area within each of the locker rooms. That is, when we get to the budgeting, it's dealt with separately from the pools, so you'll see what the impact of that is as well. Okay, well, looking at the challenge of getting this larger pool onto this site, so the area that we put my little pointer on here. This row of parking, as I mentioned, is moved to the north, which is in this direction. And we're showing the retaining wall along the western and northern edge of the pool with a fence on top of that. So it's an elevated deck similar to the relationship the parking has to the pool deck now. It's just extended further to the north. You can see how the depth contours work from the shallow end of the southern edge of the 25-meter direction, 3.5 feet deep at that wall, moving down to 5 feet deep before it can then go deeper at a faster rate to get the deeper water at the north end of the pool. The pool itself with the Murtha system allows the gutter system to be a rollout type gutter where the water is essentially level with the deck of the pool, making getting in and out of the pool much easier. And in the 25-meter layout, we can get not only up to 10 lanes, but those lanes would be approximately 8 feet wide, which would allow, when lap swimming is underway, would allow what's called circle swimming. So 2 people could be adjacent or using the same lane, one going down one side, one coming back on the other. Of course, that would be post-COVID times. But anyway, that's a view of the pool from the northwest corner, looking back towards the bathhouse with the senior center beyond. From the northeast corner, we see the same kind of configuration of the deep water here. The deep end and allows for not only the water polo, but also the main drains being as close to the mechanical room as possible, which is just off to the left of the screen, reducing the piping runs from the main drain to the surge tank and mechanical room. So it's efficient design from that standpoint as well. Taking a view from above from the northeast, we can see the existing ramped access from the parking level up to the service area. The pool mechanical room is on the north end of the existing bathhouse. We believe all of the new equipment will fit within that existing room, with the exception of one of the possible options for pool heating equipment that might need to be located outside to the north of that area. We will also need to, as we reconfigure the parking lot here, assure that we still have adequate ADA parking and an accessible route all the way to the entrance to the bathhouse. And all of those aspects will continue to operate as they have in the past. A view from the southeast overhead gives us an idea of the relationship between the senior center, the bathhouse, and the new fence line that would be created as we remove the berm, that's grassy berm that's currently sits between the pool and the senior center, and level that area and create a new fence barrier. I think we also will have a link between the senior center and the pool deck with another gate here as well. New pool lighting around the pool deck is illustrated as well. And you can get a feel for the expansion of the area within the fenced area, which allows for more leisure activities on the lawn and pool deck area to occur adjacent to the pool. This end of the pool, as we indicated, provides a ramped access down to about 2 feet deep of water, which is typically the depth of water where we would like to get people out of the wheelchair and moving into the water. So that works out well. It would be 2 feet deep across these wide steps, which would, at the west end of this shallow water area. Those wide steps provide easy access with handrails, as well as provide good teaching stations for some of the swim lessons that would occur in there. This area would then slope down at 2 feet deep until it gets about 3 feet deep before it joins up with the shallow end of the main body of the pool.
Carl,
Yes.
Carl, could you go back 2 slides?
Yep.
I know we see the senior center on this this image, but can you talk about what this if this plan has any impact on the senior center physically at all?
Other than the removal of the berm, this fence line is pretty close to the top of the berm, maybe a little bit further south than the top of the berm is now. It's an arbitrary point. At this point, it can be moved south or north or create some different kind of configuration. But no, there doesn't appear to be any significant impact. There may be some grade elevations to deal with. As we tend to level this area off, we may be slightly higher at the senior center, so that fence might sit on a short retaining wall in order to accommodate the grade difference. But beyond
There's
that,
no need to do any kind of structural changes to the senior center because of this plan,
only if we got very close to it. Yeah,
which we don't have a plan
stay
to.
away from the angle of repose for the footings. So we don't cave it in. Okay. This view of at the southwest corner of the pool deck shows you the steps going down into the shallow end of the shallow water alcove and the 3-foot depth that's along this edge of the 25-meter length, which runs this way. And this is all shallow water that ranges from 3.5 feet deep to 5 feet deep. And that's a requirement of not exceeding a certain slope on that pool area from the shallow end. Once we hit 5 feet deep, then we can drop at a much faster rate into the deep end. So these lanes would certainly not be suitable for dive starts and competitive swimming, but 6 to 8 lanes would be able to do that in the 25-yard dimension. This also sort of illustrates what Michael was talking about earlier, that you can have lap swimming going on or even a swim meet going on and still have shallow areas of the pool available for other kinds of simultaneous programming. Larger pool allows for that. And then finally, kind of the overhead view from that area. The amount of programming that is feasible in terms of the size of the pool, the total square footage of water surface area here that we're planning is about 7,200 square feet. The existing pool is just under 3,400 square feet, so more than twice the surface area in this configuration. And with the deeper depths, more than twice the pool volume as well. This also illustrates the location for the shade structures on the west side of the pool, giving good shade during a good part of the day. The low sun angle will come through there, but these shade devices could also be equipped with drop-down screens when the sun angles get low in the summer, late summer days. So that's kind of a brief synopsis of the design, but there are other considerations that we've looked into in the course of the study, and not the least of which is operating a pool in the outdoors on a year-round basis. And the existing facility was originally designed as a seasonal facility. The bathhouse used to be an open-air bathhouse, but has since been closed up and provided with a furnace and some insulation in order to allow the bathhouse to be used on a year-round basis. But the pool itself is operated currently, or has been operated, both in the summer and throughout the winter to accommodate the need within the community. So the assumption going forward with this plan is that we would do much the same thing. And the pool water heating can be the most significant operational cost, depending on staffing levels and depending on the selection of the type of pool heating system and the fuel source. As we looked at this aspect of the design, we wanted to make sure, one, that the equipment that was desired would fit within the bathhouse or the pool mechanical room, or have some location on site to be able to accommodate it, but also to address the factor of what potential operating costs might be. So we looked at these three plus options. Option one is utilizing natural gas pool heaters, which is exactly how the facility has been heated up till now. Option two is moving to an all-electric pool heating system. Both of these types of, and this would be the kind of pool heater similar to your water heater at home, where it's a direct heating element in the water driven by electricity that heats up the water. Both of these types of heaters for pools are roughly 97% efficient in converting the type of fuel, whether it's electrical power or natural gas heat energy, to heating up the pool. A third option that we've been utilizing on newer facilities is an electric heat pump chiller system option, which uses a heat pump to extract heat from the outside air to heat water, and it's electrically driven. And it, in comparison to a regular pool heater, which is direct transfer, it is about 3 times more efficient in creating energy, extracting it from the outside air and getting it into the pool water through a heat exchange system. The difficulty with that type of system is that it can't operate or doesn't operate well below 35 degrees. So in the wintertime, it's not really pulling its weight. So it would still require either a natural gas boiler backup or an electric pool heater backup for the times when it can't meet the demand itself because there's little heat energy in the outside air. So those are the kinds of systems that we've studied that would provide the sort of high level of heating requirement that's required for these types of larger pools. Technology. For swimming pools, that has typically been directed towards either a solar thermal heating, that's running the pool water directly through solar panels, typically on a roof, or through power generation using photovoltaic panels. Any of those would be usable in meeting some of the requirements for any of the options above. The power generation photovoltaic would directly offset some of the needs of the all-electric pool heater or the electric heat pump or even the backup, whereas the solar thermal might lend itself more towards the natural gas options or still works for the all-electric options as well. But we haven't gone beyond meeting the minimum requirement in terms of the budget and looking at what the solar energy contribution might be. But it is an aspect that could be studied deeper going forward. The types of systems, this happens to be gas boiler units. The electrical ones would be a similar size of things and located within the pool mechanical room. So options 1 and 2 would have equipment similar to what you see in this photograph. Heat pump chiller unit looks something like this. This is one that's being installed up in Eugene at Echo Hollow Pool. It's part of a renovation there. It will be backed up by the existing gas boiler that's been in operation since the pool opened in the late 60s. And the unit requirements for Ashland would not be quite this large, probably be 6 or 8 of what you see as the chillers there. But it produces heat that interfaces hot water system with the boiler system. The boiler is a backup. So that can all be working together. But it's a large piece of equipment, won't fit within a pool mechanical room. So in option 3, that site area to the north of the mechanical room would likely be the location for this type of unit. I mentioned the PV solar, the photovoltaic system. This is about a 75 kW system, or 60, I think is what it ended up being, on Echo Hollow Pool roof to meet that requirement. Solar hot water or direct solar would look something like this. This is at Amazon Pool, also in Eugene. They also have a hot water system at Sheldon Pool, located in Eugene. So both technologies are eligible for spending with regard to that green energy technology. So the analysis for all of these enters into not only operating costs, but eventually into some of the upfront capital costs as well. So I wanted to take a moment to go through a little bit of detail. So here's the 4 options that we've, option 1, which is the natural gas fired pool heater. Option 2, which is the all electric pool heater, which would require an upgrade of the electrical service to the building to get a 1400 amp for 480 volt electrical service to run all of that. The heat pump chiller unit would also require an electrical upgrade, but only to a 600 amp 480 service with a new backup gas fired boiler. Option 3B would be still require the electric, but it would be the 1400 amp surface because the electric pool heaters that would be backing up the heat pump would require those at peak load. So those 3 different systems using 2 different kinds of fuel sources translate into, in order to meet a peak capacity of about 3 million BTUs per hour and a total yearly load of over 8.6 billion BTUs, would require, under option 1, about 90,000 therms. Under option 2, here's the electrical power load. Under option 3, A and B, there's the electrical power load for the heat pump. Under option 3A, there's the gas requirement for backup, and the option 3B, the electrical requirement for backup. Using the rates from the natural gas from the city's own existing utility invoices, and the use and demand charges for power that we got from the city. we result in annual power and fuel costs down in this row, these rows, for both the power and the natural gas components, and total annual power fuel costs for each of these options in this row. Option 1 being the lowest current based on current natural gas rates. Those are all subject to change, as are electrical rates. But based on the current, I was looking at about 80,000. This seems to be about right, given that the existing facility spends about $40,000 a year for a pool that's less than half the size and less than half the volume of what is being planned here. The all electric using the direct pool heaters ends up with a fairly hefty increase in that annual power costs. The option 3A and 3B reduces that because of the efficiency of the heat pump in this case. These electrical loads compared to this, with the gas backup in this case and the electrical backup in this case, result in values that are still higher than option 1, but significantly less than option 2. As we carry those forward, as I mentioned, not all things are equal, that there are costs associated with the differences in these options. Option 1 is built into the cost estimate at this point that we'll share in a minute. So it's got zero cost added in order to accommodate the natural gas system. The option 2, which is the all electric, would require slightly higher, more expensive heaters, as well as the electrical upgrade of a significant size. So the added capital costs are a little over $100,000 there. Option 3A and 3B, you see, are significantly higher costs in terms of the heat pump equipment itself, in addition to having to upgrade the electrical service and buy the backup systems for those as well. So those capital costs are one-time costs. Now, in the case of option 1, this is gas-only heating. There's a move away from using fossil fuels. That's one of the reasons why the city of Eugene has gone to these heat pump chiller units. I know the city of Ashland has talked about the greenhouse gas reductions, and so option 1 might not fit those goals, but it is currently the lowest cost in terms of operating dollars, maybe not the term lowest cost in terms of social and long-term community costs. Option 2 carries a significant energy cost increase over what option 1 would be. And if you compare it to your current costs, it's significantly higher. The costs associated with the actual energy costs in options 3A and 3B are higher than option 1, but not a whole lot higher, but significantly less than option 2. When compared with option 2, this differential in capital costs that you see here, going from 100,000 to 534,000, what, $434,000 difference that can be paid back by the differential in these costs in about 2.7 years over option 2. So in comparing these, it's important to understand that the lower the cost here helps pay here, depending on what you're comparing it to. In the case of the all electric option 3B, where we have the heat pump chiller and then the electric heaters as a backup, it's still got a fairly short payback period when compared against option 2. So the conclusion here is, if you can afford to buy this equipment, it's a better deal in the long run than option 2 would be, which would be the only all electric option on the table. So I know that's a lot of detail for this, but it was a kind of an important aspect of the study. And they factor into the project estimates as we look ahead. The estimates themselves, the estimate is based on what you've seen here in this summary online tonight. Includes the pool replacement and the heating systems in option 1. And then we'll add the other costs to it. It includes the cost of all the site work associated with moving the parking lot, building the retaining walls, leveling the site, making a larger work area, doing all the excavation, and that sort of thing. There are design permits, fees, and construction testing costs, typically called soft costs. We've got a budget line item for pool furnishings and equipment allowance as well. And then the 1.5% green energy technology allowance that is required to be spent. And then the bathhouse improvements we've estimated separately. So the cost comparisons are pretty uniform until you add in the pool heating equipment. So the pool systems, the site work, design fees, permits, furnishings and equipment allowance, and the green energy technology are the same in all of the options that we're looking at here, because we're really only proposing one design at this stage. The options fall into the added costs for the pool heating equipment as we look at these other alternatives, and the net impact on what the overall costs might be as a comparison. And then the bathhouse itself, the cost of the improvements in the bathhouse, the design and permit and fees associated with the bathhouse and the green energy technology component that contributes would also be uniform across these options. The costs assume prevailing wage rates, as this is a public facility. It does include some estimating contingency, general contractors conditions, and some fairly low right now annual cost of escalation. Once we pull out of the COVID slump, we'll probably be seeing higher cost escalation rates going ahead, but fairly low at this point. One potential cost reduction item was evaluated briefly in the report, and that was to what's the value in eliminating the shallow water and ramp area. It came up to only about $250,000 on the surface of things. Moving ahead, when such time as approval and funding for some concept is ready to go, the design and permitting yet to be done, depending on how much different things would be from the concept that's been developed thus far, would probably take about 4 to 6 months. Construction itself, utilizing the Mertha pool system, should be on the order of 5 to 6 months. Now, those are all subject to the factory that produces the Mertha and its delivery limitations. The factory shuts down in the month of August, so you can't get anything out of them during that time of year. And it's also driven by the construction season. What time of year can we begin? Is it, if it's down the road a ways, are we going to be working around the pool that's back in operation and you want to get through the summer season before you start construction? All kinds of questions about that, but it's roughly a 10 to 12 month design and construction process, we believe. So I think I've talked a lot. I'd like to answer some questions, and I'm sure Michael would too.
Okay, so Tara, I'll just go ahead and start reading them and seeing if I can assign them or answer them myself.
Okay.
Okay. So the first question we had, which was you win, Harry, you got the first question in 4 minutes after we started. What was the process for defining the specifications for the proposed pool? Who was involved and who led the effort? So I want to answer this one really quick. The process for designing the specifications was a long process. It took took on many forms, and there were a lot of data points and areas of influence along the way. It is a fact that there aren't any other community pools in Ashland, and that this community pool currently serves as both the high school pool, the community pool during the summer, and special interest pools at different times for people who lease from us. So there's a consideration there and how the pool is currently being used, and the desire to ensure that the pool stays a community pool, regardless of the other users who are using it, and whether or not we decide to work with other community organizations to build one pool instead of multiple pools. The overarching goal in this process is to replace a community pool. Daniel Meyer Pool is a community pool, and this proposal gets us to the point where we have a better community pool going forward. There was also a pool ad hoc committee that was created, and there were several people on that committee, including commissioners, people from the community, from the senior community, from the high school, from the education community and the sports community. We did have people who were serving at will throughout the community, and we had a pretty wide swath of people on that group. But I'd say the thing that influenced the pool design, or the pool specifications that were proposed from the ad hoc committee, came most likely from the survey that was done and the open houses that were performed. And I believe I can speak for the committee and say that they were comfortable in making the recommendations that they made based on the work that they did in informing the community and asking them the questions of what they would like to see. So I very much think that this is a community led process, and that's how we were able to get to the specifications of the 25 yards by 25 meters, and so that we can have the extra shallow area for multiple uses at the same time, and the shallow area for even more uses, and zero depth entry and things like that. So will there be ADA access from the senior center? Yes, we are planning on having ADA access from the senior center. We don't show it on this plan right here, but that's always been part of the goal here, is to provide that access from the senior center to incorporate the senior programs into the pool area, or incorporate the pool into senior programs. Okay, now the next one is what about a ground sourced heat pump? And Carl, I'm going to turn it over to you to answer that one.
A ground source heat pump, we would have to do some engineering study on that, but that is another source of more efficient source of heating energy than direct heat from either natural gas or electric. We have looked at those kinds of systems in the past, and they haven't typically penciled out because of the overall load that's required. The number of ground source wells that would be required would cover quite an area in order to get the kind of loads that we would need there. But I wouldn't rule it out, but it would take some further study. It might be similar in some fashion to the option 3A or 3B.
Yes, but you chose to present 4 options, and that wasn't one of the options. Right. Is it safe to assume that the reason why was because of the area required and the draw on electricity being much greater than the ones that you did propose?
I believe so. We didn't think it would pencil out as well as the newer technology with these airtight heat pump chilled water systems.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So would a heat pump water heater option instead of an electric hot water heater require the same size hot water heater? As in, does option 3A require option 2 to be built as well? whereas option 2 would not require option 3. And I think you, as we went along, you kind of answered this, but go ahead, Carl.
Essentially, yes, the assumption with option 3A and B is that the heat pump chiller unit can serve 80 to 90% of the heating needs for the year. That other 10 to 20% would need to be supplemented by the other facility. Now, the other heat source, whether that requires the full, at peak load condition, the full fire of the full boiler that's in option 1 or the full boiler in option 2, that's the assumption that we have made at this point. It would take finer engineering design and analysis to know whether we could reduce those backup systems slightly in size and still meet the requirement, given that we would be starting with a pool that should already be heated up.
Yeah. Okay, and I imagine we are going to have many more discussions about energy and the different options, and we are going to answer all the questions tonight, but I just want to assure everybody that we will continue to we're not making a recommendation tonight. Tonight is not about saying which option as far as energy is the best option or pushing it in a certain direction. We are presenting all of the options tonight, and there will be much discussion, I'm sure, about this before a decision is made eventually by the Parks Commissioners.
If I might add to that, I think that the purpose of that portion of the study was to sort of try and get a handle on the overall complexity of the issue, because it is a significant ongoing operating cost that you need to be aware of when operating a larger outdoor pool. And it needs to factor in decisions that are not just cost-driven, but community-driven decisions as well. And so you're right, it's just the beginning in terms of finding what the best solution is for this facility and your community.
Okay, thank you. So another question about energy. Mr. Sherwood, Carl, you mentioned that option 2 is 97% efficient, but a heat pump is 3 times as efficient. And could you explain what that means?
Well, your typical water heater has a heating element buried in the water. That's pretty much what those pool heating systems do. And for every kilowatt hour, you get X amount of heat energy out of that converts into warmer water. In the course of the heat pump, that same kilowatt of energy will produce 3 times the heating value or heat up 3 times the water. And so it's far more efficient because it's not using electricity directly as a heating source. It's using the electricity to harvest heat from the outside air and utilize that in heating the pool water. Thus the more expensive technology.
Okay. Again, we'll be able to drill down into this as we continue to have discussions about this. So the next question is, what is the maintenance cost of each option for heating? I believe we did show that in the presentation, and that will be available online as we present this this presentation and as the report is presented. But we could actually go over that right now, but I want to make sure that we get to everybody's questions, and that is something that we can put on the web for you. The question is, oh, sorry about that. Tara, could you bring that one back? Is that possible?
Yes, let me bring it back.
Okay. There was another part to that question. I just wanted to make sure that we got that. So I'll go ahead and go into the next one, and then we'll come back to that one. The solar component has come up a couple of times, and people are asking, why we didn't explore the solar component. And I don't think that that's actually true, that we didn't explore the solar component. But Carl, I think it would be good for you to explore, or not explore, explain the exploration of the solar component, and then again why the 4 recommendations and why a complete solar option wasn't part of that.
Well, solar is a component of energy capabilities at a facility like this. The 2 types of solar energy that are most typically used at swimming pool facilities are solar thermal, which would be harvesting or running water through solar collectors and getting hot water then to transfer heat, or pumping pool water directly through the heaters, as we've done at Amazon Pool over the years. And or PV, which is electric. Neither of those systems, we've never designed a system that would be fully capable of doing all of the heating needs for an outdoor pool, especially one of this size. And solar systems don't work when the sun goes down, and when it's and they diminish in effectiveness during certain weather events and the like. So in all cases, we're always going to need some sort of alternative fuel source other than solar energy. So at this point, we know that there's a minimum requirement for solar, and that's what we've addressed so far in the report. But it could be a larger component depending on where solar could be harvested and in what fashion. The issue with the solar systems is that they have a shelf life as well, and so there's the added cost of a large solar array and the cost of replacing those panels over time. So it's another component of study that would bear a lot higher level of scrutiny, but we don't believe in any fashion it could replace the heating requirements that are met by any of the other 3+ options. So we see it as a component that could put a significant dent in any one of the 4 options, but we don't know the best way to, 1, spend the minimum amount of money that the state would require you to spend, or 2, advise you on how best to spend more towards solar energy if that's the direction you wanted to go without further analysis.
So solar, so just if I can clear that up a little bit, at least for me anyways, solar is something that you see as being part of the future of this project, and the amount is something that we will talk about as we go forward. And to answer the questions of how solar panels will ameliorate the cost of the other energy options, I think Mr. Sherwood explained very well. He doesn't think solar could completely replace the others, the energy requirements from, say, electricity. But as we look at this and go forward, any added solar would be taken into account. And if it could ameliorate any of the costs of the others, we would take that into account as we continue to move forward. So we will, I just want to assure everybody, we will continue to talk about solar because of many reasons, because it's a good energy source and it's logical to do, but also because there is a green energy technology requirement. It is part of this project as we go forward. Okay, so I'm gonna just make sure that we answered that, the one that we skipped over, but so the question was, with gas being phased out in many municipalities for environmental reasons, why invest in gas? That's a great question. And honestly, that's why we presented multiple options. I think, you know, as we go into any plan, we want to present as many options as possible. And we want to show the option of staying the way that it is now. It's not that we're recommending that option or that we think it's a good option even. But we do need to present all of the options and show the cost differentials so that we can have a good and healthy discussion about those things going forward. But that's a great question. Why would we invest in this energy that we're trying to actually get away from? So I think that we answered the solar questions, and then I'm going to move on to what is the expected lifespan of the Murtha pool system, and what are the costs of extending that? Carl, could you answer that, or is that something Justin could
Actually,
answer?
Justin might chime in if he's available. Justin is from Aquatic Design Group, our pool consultant.
Yeah, hi everyone. I appreciate the ability to take part in this discussion and help shape the future of aquatics in your town. The Murtha technology is it's an existing technology that's been around for many decades, and it's proven to work well. We've worked very closely with Murtha over the years to improve their technology for the US market, which is a very different marketplace than Italy, where it's produced. Long story short, in getting back to your question, I know we're on a time crunch here. The expected lifespan that we've seen over the new and improved Murtha system, which includes a chemical bonding process compared to a mechanical bonding process, which they've in the past, and several other innovations, is expected to be right around that 25-year mark where their warranty expires. We are in the process of renovating 3 existing Murtha pools right now throughout the country, and the process there is about equal to that of a replaster. So if we're talking about those costs, and I know in Carl's presentation he'd included about a $500,000 present day value for that. The reason that Murtha is intriguing, and I think that the town went down this path, is it's a greener option in that you get around or away from that initial replaster, which is a fairly high expense, provided that you meet the Murtha warranty requirements, which include keeping water quality in the proper balance and having a certified inspector come out once a year to make sure that everything's operating properly. And then at that 25-year mark, you would have essentially a process where you're patching key areas, and then you'd be replacing others. So I would think that the answer is 25 years. It could be 20, it could be 30, depending on a lot of different variables that are unknown at this point.
Okay, thank you. So moving along, I know we're not talking about the fund tonight, the fund. We are talking about fun in the sense that pools are fun, but I love the design. What is or get this done? And I think what the question is raising the money to meet the requirements of the budget. That again is a great question, and I don't think tonight we have an answer for that. With COVID, a lot of things have changed, and we're seeing projections that we had for income with food and beverage, which is money that we would use to pay for new capital improvement projects. We're seeing that change, and with the governor's restrictions and COVID blowing up again, and not being able to eat out in restaurants, where we thought we wouldn't go back to takeout only. We are looking at another few months where we could see some significant drops in revenue from the food and beverage tax. With that in mind, and that being the most logical source of income to use towards a new pool, an existing source of income, we really need to wait until we have an idea of the ability of that resource or that revenue source to pay for this. In other words, we really need to get down further down the road and understand that we are going back to a normal economy before we could say exactly that fund could take care of this project. Now, having a design like this and having a plan opens up options for us to apply for grants and look for other funding options. So that's one of the things that having this helps us do right away, and that helps us to potentially be able to pay for this project as we talked about previously. Again, going forward, we'll, just like the energy and the design of the pool, the shape of the pool, the layout of the pool, everything, we will have opportunity going forward to talk about this more as a community and with the parks commissioners before this project moves forward into the next phase. So the next question is, will these plans, designs, and financial estimates of the cost be available to the public? Absolutely. Everything that you're seeing here tonight, we will post on our website. We are planning to put that on the city's front page as a hot topic item. If you're familiar with the way the city's website works, it'll also be on our website, Ashland Parks and Recreation. And in addition to the presentation that you saw tonight, we will post the report that Carl Sherwood and his group of consultants have put together for us. I am going to tell you that that is draft. It is something that we are still planning to report and present to the parks commissioners, but it has all the information in it that we do want to present to the parks commissioners. So it is public, and we do plan to have that on hopefully tomorrow, but by the end of the week for sure. Okay, the next question, and I'll have to start moving a little bit quicker considering the time, is when will the proposals be voted on and approved to move forward? Again, in my discussion about the funding mechanisms and everything, it's really not the right time. I just really couldn't estimate when things could move forward. Obviously, we need to know how we're going to pay for something before we can actually start building it. But the proposals could move forward and actually be voted on within 2021. And I expect that they will be by summertime. Hopefully, we actually have an approved plan for a pool. As far as the moving forward, again, that's the part that where we go into the next phase of construction. That's the part that we do need to make sure that we have the funding or funding taken care of so that we can move that forward. This one, it looks like a comment. I strongly encourage using trees to provide needed shaded area around the pool in place of proposed shade structures or in addition to them. Plant trees that will grow large enough to provide shade over the deck and pool. As landscape architects know, you need trees on the south and west side of the outdoor areas to provide shade during the warmest parts of the day. And trees are a green alternative to constructed shade structures. Thank you for the comment. We'll take that into consideration. Appreciate that. Okay, so next, will the high school teams be allowed to use the pool at request? Now, I just want to explain really quick how the high school uses the pool now. We have a memorandum of understanding or a contract with the school district of Ashland and Phoenix and Talent. And they actually lease the pool from Ashland Parks and Recreation. So it's actually paid for by the school districts during the time that they are using it. Now, this is similar to other memorandums of understanding that we have with the school district already for tennis courts. We own the tennis courts that the high school kids play on. We also own the fields that the varsity baseball, softball, and not just varsity, but the baseball and softball teams play on. Previously, soccer also played on our fields, but they moved their actual games up to the high school with the football field up there being redone. All of those relationships that we have where we're providing a service to the school district pays Ashland Parks and Recreation for the right to use our property and for the maintenance that we put into the property so that they can use them. And they do cover the costs. And I hope that answers your question. Could the west side of the street entrance be used to increase parking area? It looks like it would provide a lot of extra parking stalls. Right now it has several trees and parking is parallel to the street direction. Parking would be head in and allow for exiting the area without the need of a turnaround. Another really good question, something that we have actually talked about quite a bit and talked to the school district about. I'm not sure where the school district is in their redesign of the elementary school, but I can tell you that they are planning on redesigning the elementary school. And I do know that that does include redesigning their parking, ingress, and egress for the school. Now, because that is happening, it gives us an opportunity as Ashland Parks and Recreation, since we own the street, the Walker or the Hunter Court Street, where we actually can enter into discussions and because the school district hopefully will be a partner on the pool anyways, I do believe that that is something and that has the potential to be realized where we could potentially have parking on Hunter Court. And as we move forward, that will be something that we report on, but I do plan on continuing to talk to the school district about that possibility. Would closing the pool during the coldest 2 months be an option to reduce heating costs? Yes, absolutely. I believe that that could be an option to reduce heating costs. It doesn't completely reduce heating costs. The pool hasn't been open for the entire fall or up till now. We still have to heat the pool because we can't have it freezing over. We can't have it doing all kinds of weird things to us with growth of different organisms and things like that. So we actually do keep it at a very low heat when it's not being used. But the winter time is when the school districts are actually using the pool. And the school districts, like I said, cover the cost of heating the pool and running the pool during the winter season. That the community portion of the pool, if we continue to operate the way that we have traditionally operated the pool, would again be during the summertime, and we would be leasing the pool most likely to the school districts and other users during the winter, and maybe having some open swim that we run during the winter. But the majority of the use during the winter would be for special interest, as in high schools. Another question, why no pool cover? Pool cover is definitely included in this proposal and is part of the energy proposal for this. Am I right, Carl?
Pool blanket.
Pool blanket.
That's what you're talking about. As opposed to a roof cover.
Okay, I'm sorry. I was thinking a blanket. Why no cover? Simply because we were trying to propose a pool that we could actually accommodate. One of the reasons why this pool is being proposed in this location is because the infrastructure already exists in this location. I do understand that we have to improve Daniel Meyer Pool Bathhouse, but we don't have to replace it. And if we were to move it to another location, we would have to replace it. And that just goes to show the efforts that we are trying to take to limit the impact financially that this pool will have on the community and on the resources of Ashland Parks and Recreation. So the short answer is it's very expensive to cover a pool, and I think we would be close to doubling the project if we were to look at a full-time pool cover. We had looked at other covers in the past that would be temporary. This plan does not preclude a future temporary cover being erected over the pool if funds were raised and we were able to do that. So what type of water filtration / sanitation systems have been proposed? Carl, could you answer that?
Justin might have a better handle on that than I do at this point.
Yeah, we're proposing liquid chlorine or sodium hypochlorite in bulk form, and CO2 with an acid assist as the sanitation systems, combined with a high rate sand filter system.
Okay, we have another question. Were other sites considered for the location of the pool? Absolutely. We considered several other sites and landed on Daniel Meyer Pool location, again, because the infrastructure already exists. The cost of putting in parking, the new bathhouse, paying the system development charges for water, all the different things that we already have at this location. It leads us to this location, and the fact that this is a hub of activity for the community, and then the ability to work with the school district on cross parking agreements, which expand our parking capacity. All those reasons went into coming and landing on Daniel Meyer Pool. as opposed to any other location. What then is the total cost of the project and how would it be paid for? If, you know, again, we're not answering that question right now because we just can't answer how it's going to be paid for. We had a plan previously of how to pay for a pool. That changed with COVID. We are putting together the plan again because the pool needs to be replaced. We will be looking for options, and having a plan makes it so that when options do come up for funding, we can be first in line because we have a shovel-ready project potentially. So another question here. You gave specific answers on all the other heating options, but you never were specific. We know it's not going to replace 100%. Give us numbers on solar. And you know, going forward, we will give numbers on solar as we investigate all of the options. We will. So as we move forward and we evaluate the systems going forward, we will show what solar we can do, Carl, I'm sure, and how that affects the other proposed heating options.
Correct.
And you know, I understand people want to see the solar, and I want to assure you, okay, our consultants have considered solar, and solar is an option. But I also want to point out that this is not complete by any means, and solar is an option or is a part of all of the options. Carl, I do think based on the comments that we're getting, we need to define a little bit better how solar fits into the other options and where solar actually, where the spaces that we will plan on putting solar and things like that. I think that is what people are getting at. So as we move forward, remember this is a draft plan, and we will continue to define and refine the proposals that have been given in order to get to a point where a decision can be made by the Parks Commissioners. Is there anything else you want to say on that, Carl?
No, I think that's quite reasonable. I was just going to point out that the minimum investment in green energy technology at 1.5% only totals about $75,000 or $80,000 right now as part of the budget that was presented tonight. That doesn't go very far. So yes, you could put in a PV system or a solar hot water system and spend that minimal amount of money, but likely you're going to want to upsize that to some degree. The question is, what are the long-term life cycle costs of the equipment, one way or the other, and what benefit is it providing under any of the other heating options, because they'll have to work hand in hand with something else.
Carl,
So
if I could jump in. Sorry, if I could jump in real quick. One thing to consider with solar, it doesn't work well when you need it the most. And so when you're talking about the overall cost, it's going to do a great job in the summer and shoulder seasons, not as good a job in the winter, obviously. And you need a significant footprint for solar. So if we're talking about thermal solar, you need about 80% of your water surface area. In this case, we're looking at 6,000 to 8,000 square feet. And then with the same thing with PV, you're going to need a lot of roof space for that. And so we need to figure out where that can be located. And those will all lead into those future iterations when we can inform those numbers better.
Okay, so I'll just put out there that when we come back and we meet with the Climate Policy Commission and the Parks Commission, we will, in our presentation, show where solar can be located and talk a little bit more specific about solar going forward. So I need to get through, I'm just going to try and go through and answer a couple of questions that haven't been answered yet. We've got a couple of comments about SEEP. We understand that that natural gas is discouraged, and we definitely are discouraging the use of natural gas, and that is why we did multiple options here. Somebody says, love the design, can't wait for the new pool. They asked if the funding source of food and beverage is something that needs to be voted on by the public, or is it just a matter of seeing what the stream is to see if it can cover the pool. It's the latter. The food and beverage tax goes until 2030, and then it would need to be voted on again to extend beyond that point. But until that time, we do have a stream. We just don't know what the stream is because of COVID. We don't want to assume too much because then you know what that does. So is there any plan for building in structural supports for eventually adding a cover? The plan is to provide space to eventually put in supports to add a cover. Unfortunately, you know, the way construction works, it doesn't make a lot of sense to design a cover now and install it maybe in 10 years because the building codes and everything could have changed, and the money that we put into putting in footings could be completely wasted. So I understand that we will, if you look at the area here, we do have the option of putting in a cover at some point, but no, we will not be putting in footings for a future cover. We would have to actually have the cover and the money to pay for it before we did that.
Typically what we do in planning ahead for future covers is make sure that our primary piping runs and things like that are out of the way of likely areas of future footing excavations and the like. So some planning would be done as part of the design, but Michael's right. You wouldn't want to invest in that because not knowing exactly what and where and what the configuration would be down the road, it could be money wasted.
Yeah. There's a question if, will there be an edge where the bank in the shallow zone appears to have an opening? It's confusing in the photo when lap swimmers in the other direction. So this is open right here. This is a smooth surface on the bottom that transitions into the shallow area here. The 25-meter turnaround only goes to this point. There are no 25-meter lanes over in this area. If that didn't answer your question, we can talk more about this personally. I know it's hard to get these questions across when you're talking about a site plan, but I'd be happy to answer that question in more detail to the person who asked that. We have some more talking about solar. There's a question, is Parks exploring non-chlorine options to filter pool water or ozonators? Is that something that was considered, Justin or Carl?
Yeah, I'll take the first crack at that, and Carl can correct me if I say anything incorrect. Oregon Health Authority's pool code requires a residual to be in the water at all times. That residual can either be chlorine, bromine, or some sort of other it doesn't work on pools because as soon as it hits atmosphere, it is gone. So there's no way to maintain a residual in the water. So we certainly explored other options from an economic standpoint and efficacy standpoint. Chlorine is unfortunately the least bad option.
Well put.
Okay. So there's a question about UV sanitation. We will answer that as we go forward. There's a question about how Eugene uses solar on their pool. We'll be sure to answer that as we go forward as well. Another comment, great presentation, love the design, and a thank you. And that basically gets us to the end of the questions. Carl, did you want to say anything before I close up?
No, other than I think this is a great first step. We put a lot of detail into the study. I would say that the draft report that you have in hand, I need to update with these most recent options 3B where and the cost estimates. So that one I'll have to you tomorrow before you can post that. But I'll send this presentation before I leave tonight.
Okay. We did have a couple of email questions, and unfortunately we're over time. And what we'll do for any questions that we did not get to, especially these email questions, we will email you back. The last question I'm going to answer is is the baseball bathroom next to the bathhouse an option to include in the remodel, possibly to be used as a pump house? All of the infrastructure around is available to use if it's consistent with the uses that are already there. Now, if we were taking away any part of the bathrooms and degrading the baseball bathrooms for the sake of the pool, that would be more of a problem. But I don't necessarily think the heat pumps are an issue for locating those outside. As Carl showed initially, we can actually locate those right outside on the north side of the building, and they can be surrounded by a fence, kind of a utility area. Okay, so the last things I wanted to talk about are what the next steps are. But before that, I just want to say thanks for everybody who participated tonight, and thanks for your understanding in that this is a process to identify what a new pool should look like in the community of Ashland should we go forward. And there's a lot of things that go into making that decision. The fact is that there are a lot of different users, and we need to account for all of those users. First and foremost, this is a community pool, but it doesn't, to me, it makes a lot of sense to consider all of the other users and potentially consolidate as many users into one facility as possible to prevent redundant systems throughout the community. And if that's something that we can do as a government agency, I think that it's our responsibility to look into that. So thank you again. The next steps, I'm just going to say really quick, are that we will be presenting this to the Parks Commissioners, and we will touch on some of the things that were asked tonight that we weren't completely able to answer, and continue to have a discussion about this. As far as decision process and how long it's going to take, I imagine that we are going to be talking about this through the spring, as far as discussions about the pool, the heating systems, and all of those things before the Parks Commissioners approve it or approve some form of a plan. And then we will start talking about funding after that. So I appreciate your patience as we move forward in this process. I appreciate all those who were involved and who are on the line tonight, ready to answer questions if we needed to the commissioners for being here, and all of you. I think we had around 60 people show up, and as I talk, more people just keep dropping off. So I'm going to go ahead and end this now. And thank you for the consultants for the time you put into this.
Thank you.
Okay, and good night, everybody.